after I left the Giants-Niners game, I had to go check in on the boys who were at the mall next to the stadium. So before kickoff, I ran back over and I was essentially going against the foot traffic.
Great.
And I was like, is this what Simba felt during the stampede?
Oh,
like, is this
Simba?
what it was like?
Oh my gosh.
It was, I took video of it. It was scary. Mikey loves to do Scarlet.
Oh, welcome to Scoop City on a Wednesday. James Palmer here with you. A wild trade deadline. I think Diana's just catching her breath. There were 10 trades finalized on the trade deadline day. We're going to break down a lot of them, the biggest moves that were made. How do they impact the league moving forward the second half of the 2025 season? Please like and subscribe. Please do it. Just hit it. It's easy. It's simple. We're going to break down a couple of things throughout the course of this show. Mainly, we're going to talk about Quinnen Williams, what he comes and brings to this Dallas defense that has been struggling. Could they find their way into the postseason in the second half after a couple of moves Jerry was able to make? We'll break that down. Also, Sauce Gardner, the one that nobody saw coming. He heads over to Indianapolis, and now, where are the Colts in terms of contenders in the AFC? We'll talk about that. And Rashid Shaheed, maybe the favorite move of a lot of people as he rejoins Clint Kubiak, who's running that offense in Seattle. I bring in The Athletic's senior NFL insider, the woman who did everything solo, really, on the Twitter spheres. I got to ask you this. I said Twitter first, Diana. Where do you post it first? How does this happen when you have all these different platforms now, whether it's Threads, whether it's X, how do you, where do you go first?
Facebook.
Really?
Okay.
MySpace?
Well,
MySpace
if I wanted my parents to read my updates, it goes fast. And even just with the algorithms right now and the way it's set up, it's really hard to see what's what. And it's a mess. And you definitely need a team of people. And shout out Jeremy for, he's on our team and helps me a lot with trying to organize how we're going to do this. But yeah, I got a little trade deadline hangover. Not because I had any booze last night, but I don't think I was mentally ready for the punches as fast as they came, right? Like, we always expect the trades to happen. They just went back to back to back. They almost were on top of each other. And then, of course, you mentioned at the start of the show that, the Sauce Gardner thing shocked me. And I think shocked a lot of people.
Shocked everybody.
But it was so fun. It was so fun.
Super fun.
One of our competitors over at the NFL Network just shot me a text, was like, God, I hate the deadline. How you doing? I'm like, oh my God, I love it. I thought that was great. And especially considering the fact that it's just getting better and we're seeing more. Brandon Beane was just talking to the media a couple minutes ago, actually. And he was like, oh, what a waste of time. Yeah, because he didn't do anything. You didn't
get a deal done. Yeah, there it is. But you and I were texting throughout the day, back and forth. And in the beginning, we were kind of like, I hear it might be kind of quiet. And even those are decision makers that are saying that to us. I don't know, it might be.
I'm glad you said that, because I did have someone mention to me I think they were just trying to tease me a bit. I thought it wasn't going to be exciting. It's like, no one in the league expected that yesterday.
No one.
I did not talk to one person who was like, Sauce Gardner's getting traded, maybe besides Chris Ballard, Shane Steichen, Darren Moogie, and Aaron Glenn, you know what I mean? And Woody Johnson.
Exactly.
Sure, and
that might be it. That might be it. And, all right, let's get into it. Let's dive into it. This is what we're hearing. Here we go. We're going to start with the Jets. Diana mentioned Darren Moogie in his first year as a general manager in the NFL. We're going to talk about some of these guys that are the youngsters there in that role and how aggressive some of them are. We'll start with Quinnen Williams, though. We'll get to the Sauce Gardner trade. Jerry comes on Sirius XM on Monday and goes, yeah, I've made a trade. And then just doesn't tell anybody what it was. I think that was the Logan Wilson trade. But anyway, he ends up making the trade for Logan Wilson to come in and be a linebacker for them. He makes the Quinnen Williams trade where he gives up a 1 and a 2. Your initial thoughts, because we were texting, I think in the morning, going, I'm hearing Quinnen Williams' name a little bit, and you were kind of all over that.
So I heard Saturday night the conversations were starting to go from, we're flirting with this, to this may be something real. But Dallas wasn't the only team in on Quinnen. And I kept hearing out of New York, they were not going to move him. So I actually stopped chasing Quinnen as hard as I was chasing Jermaine Johnson, full disclosure, because I thought Jermaine had a better shot of getting moved. More teams that I was talking to at the time were in on him. So you had the San Francisco 49ers, you had the Chicago Bears, you had the Patriots, you had a lot of teams looking to improve their defense, giving the Jets calls to just see who were they willing to deal. Now, start big picture. The Jets, apparently, now that I'm doing more calling, we're open to having a lot of the discussions. And they made the decision to move Quinnen over the weekend. So it was a hard no, and then they shifted once they saw what Dallas was willing to give them. And we talk about this on the show all the time. Like, every GM and head coach will listen. They will listen. Even though they come out.
Everybody has a price.
Exactly. And they go, we're not doing this. Like, yes, they don't want to, but it's also like, come get me. And I think in regards to the philosophy of the New York Jets, the fact that they were able to agree that moving him was in the benefit of the future of the New York Jets, along with Sauce Gardner, thumbs up by me in terms of that they're doing. And it also tells you a lot about how they feel about these players and the state of this Jets team right now, James.
Yeah, it's interesting. And you know what? I think Jerry was smart. He was being Jerry, where if we remember a few weeks back, he's calling about Max Crosby. Is that really happening? He's really just making sure everybody knows I'm willing to swing big, right? And he's going, I'm willing. If I want you guys to know I could be one of these guys that's out there that's going to sort of guy. Like when everybody starts talking about the Cowboys. I talked to people right after the deal happened that are in that building that were like, I'm shocked. I'm trying to process this right now. I'm trying to figure out what we just did. I'm trying to wrap my head around all of this. Man, I wish we would have beat Denver and Arizona, because we'd be in a much different spot right now going through this. And with the offense that we have, yes, we got better as a defense. Certainly, those picks were burning a hole in Jerry's pocket. What I want to see happen from the Dallas side of things, when you look at the finances of it, obviously you kind of got rid of Mazi Smith and got Kenny Clark. Then you kind of lose Micah Parsons and you bring in Quinnen Williams at a much cheaper rate. And you're going to save roughly $69 million over the next 3 years, roughly, right? Like $23 million, roughly. What do they do with that money? That's what I want to see. And I'm going to go outside the box and just say, this was my I wish would have happened as part of Jerry. Okay? You know what I think they should have done? I think they should have traded George Pickens. I think they should have moved on from George Pickens, because I'm looking at it from this lens. Are you going to be able, with as well as he's played, re-sign George Pickens and have that contract and CeeDee Lamb's contract and Dak Prescott's contract? Borderline impossible. So if he walks in free agency, you probably would have gotten more at this deadline for George Pickens than you would in the comp pick. And so when I look at, if you're trying to flip this and you're trying to use what the Micah Parsons trade got you in terms of capital and cap space, why not go all in on it? Use this start from George Pickens, because I do think they thought it was going to be a moderate start. It would be good. Maybe we can bring him back and he'd be a great 2. He's outplayed what everybody kind of thought he was going to do. And now everybody goes, this is a bona fide 1. He's been great in the locker room. Maybe that was a move that could have there was a shortage on wide receivers. Would somebody have swung it, you think? Would somebody have went after George Pickens? Yeah,
I think it's adorable that you are trying to think future for the Dallas Cowboys while Jerry Jones is obviously making these moves for now. Well, you know what I mean? So you bring up a good point, though, about what you just did right there was have an honest conversation about what you think the Dallas Cowboys are today and how they could actually take advantage of that and not necessarily believe that they are going to make a deep playoff run based on the defense that we saw. But that is not how most teams do it. Like they will tell you they're thinking future, but not a lot of owners want to just have that difficult conversation with their players, with their staff, and say, this ain't it, right? Like obviously the Jets did, right? The Jets were like, yeah, we stink, and we're probably going to stink next year, and we're probably going to stink the year after that. Like, it's going to be a minute. We got to go get a quarterback, and then we can start building. And look, in 3 years, maybe the Jets are ridiculous. Or we're here on the show talking about who the next general manager is going to be, right? Because that's probably how we will figure out if these moves were good or not. I was asking a lot of people around the league initially, trying to keep my own opinion about it out of, do you think the trades that Jerry Jones made today soften the blow of losing Micah? And it's like so in my face that no. It's like, what? No, of course not. Like, guess what Dallas needs? Micah Parsons. Like, that is what they need right now. And we knew, and even when we talked about it on the show after I saw Jerry at the league meetings, like, he didn't lie to us, right? He said, I'm not going pass rush, and I got the picks, and I want to do something. And he did. It's just, I think it's up for debate whether or not what he did was actually great for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, that's true. And listen, when Eberflus has been at his best, it's been when there's been good defensive tackle play, actually, over great edge play, great defensive tackle play with the way Flus works. The other part of this Jets, let's just call it a teardown, but I also think you can convince a lot of people in that building to go, hey, I know we get rid of two of our best players. Look at the return we got. Because let's move on to the Sauce Gardner trade where they get 2 ones from Chris Ballard, a general manager that is usually just not active at the deadline. I believe he's made 1 move in 8 years, and that was Naheem Hines when he requested a trade out of Indianapolis. And so he goes and makes a splash. I love this trade, Dianna, because this is a team going, we are all in, and we're going to make a big move to make sure everybody on our roster understands we are all in, and they get Sauce Gardner on, honestly, a terrible contract either over the next several years when they give up these 2 ones. Tell me what happened to your phone when you were starting to figure out that this was going to be happening.
So I spoke to some people in Indy over the weekend about what they were trying to do. And I think there was an understanding that they may not be able to get the corners that they want, right? Corner was always the priority. Tough market. Always. This is going back weeks, obviously because of the injuries that they have, and there is a need. When you take a look at this roster, it is a glaring hole from some bizarre injuries as well. That being said, on Tuesday morning, after talking to some sources about what the Colts were doing, it was once again corner, but I was told at the time that they were talking to a different team about a corner who isn't even close to being as talented as Sauce Gardner. So I always felt that Indy was going to make a move. I just didn't think it was going to be a gigantic punch out like this. And probably one of the more shocking trades I've seen, in the last 10 years or so, where I was really caught off guard on it because I did not know Sauce was available. And I even went back to my conversations I had. I think you're right. I wonder though, like, who is available and who isn't? Like, it's always worth making that call. I got into a little bit of a heated debate, a healthy one, with the general manager yesterday morning. About, he was asking me, is this team doing this? Is this team doing that? I said, just call them. Like, why are you at, like, I appreciate, I know why you're calling me and asking. Pick up the phone and just call. Who cares? Like, everyone is so worried about losing the leverage on it and desperation. That being said, I just think when I look at the Sauce Gardner situation, I can't remember this. And James, I've been Googling it. I've had our people Google it. Maybe you know off the top of your head. I don't think you do. When was the last time a player signed a extension like this and then traded 4 months later?
Yeah.
This is why this was so unusual, right?
Yeah, it's exactly why. And I'm always wondering now, like, all right, is Darren Muji playing like 4D chess? Was he thinking when he structured this contract, I still want to make him available by the trade deadline? Because the structure of the contract, and we all look at this deal, and Dianna, you broke it down perfectly, going like, this doesn't happen because they're usually not structured in this manner. And the way that the money was allocated is the way that they were able to do this and not suffer a massive amount of dead money, really not much at all, and be able to make this trade. I find this trade doing 2 things for all of us, Dianna. One, obviously, it shows us the Colts are all in, and I'll get into why I think Sauce is such a massive move for Lou Anarumo. The other part the part that screams it so loud from the top of the mountains. We are all in on Daniel Jones. We don't need a first round pick for each of the next 2 years. We don't need a quarterback with one of those picks. I think we're in on Danny Dimes. Like, we have our quarterback. So we don't need the first round pick in each of the next 2 years. We're going for all of it. What I do go think about and look back to those numbers of those games in the postseason where I was always covering the Chiefs versus Cincinnati. And it was always talking to Patrick Mahomes going, I can't stand playing Lou Anarumo with an experienced secondary, with corners that can play man, with guys that can lock me up. I see one thing in the first half, and it looks like that. In the second half, I see the exact same thing. And then after the snap, it's completely different. I think this is going to allow Lou Anarumo to be back to the guy that we saw making those defenses so complex and versatile, confusing the best quarterback on the planet. And now he has the ability, when Ward comes back and you have Sauce and you have Kenny Moore as one of the best slots in football, you have the ability to get Lou Anarumo back to the type of coach that we know he is. You know Lou, I know Lou. I'm not sure there's anybody I'm not sure if his feet were touching the ground on the way in today. And to get back to using noggin of his that is so good at confusing quarterback.
I was thinking how so many of these teams have such great social media people in the building, and there's just always cameras rolling. I hope someone with the Colts took video of when Lou was informed that Sauce Gardner was headed to Indy. I would have loved to have seen where he was, what the expression is, what he said, who he called first, and then, what they discussed in the meeting rooms after that, because, he immediately started to think about what this defense would look like with him. I do think we learned a lot about both teams, right? We learned about Indy being all in, Indy doing something they normally or historically do. And then for the Jets, which I thought was really interesting. So Aaron Glenn, he had one of the most interesting takes recently. So if you remember, he said before the season, when asked about what the state of the Jets is, how do you want this team to be? He said, I want this to be a team that fans are proud of. Right. So then they make these trades, and obviously they move on from two of the bigger New York Jets stars. And then his response after all of this is, I never said they were going to be proud of them right now, as in the fans. So it's like, this team obviously did not start the year thinking that this would be the case. But he is right in a sense that the future, if they get it right and they make the right picks, this could be the year the New York Jets reflect back on and go, it was worth eating it a bit in order to get these great players. And we'll see if they'll be able to do it.
It's a great point. When Diana's talking about get these great players, they now have 2 first-round picks. There's in Indies in 2026, 2 second-round picks. There's in Dallas in 2026, 2027. They have 3 first-round picks, their own, the other one being Dallas or Green Bay's. I believe it's the better of the 2, and Indianapolis's. I look at 2027, Diana, and I know they pushed for one of those picks to be in 2027 on purpose, because I look at the draft in that group when you have the likes of those receivers out of Ohio State and Alabama that still can't come out yet, but they can come out in 2027. Maybe the quarterback class in 27 is better. Asking around, it's early. But I texted a couple pro personnel guys going what do you think of the 27 class? And they were like, it's early, but there's a chance it could be far, 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 far better than 2026. So maybe, again, Darren Muji, Aaron Glenn, playing a little 30, 40 look, we'll see.
When we were reaching out to people around the league as soon as it happened, we were both doing it. It is interesting that a lot of the responses I was getting, though, was actually not in favor of the Jets. It was, really? And maybe that was just, maybe his reaction to I
got kind of 50-50.
Of they're such a mess, or, the Jets are jetsing, it was just and then, I had one person, and I tweeted this, and oh my gosh, people were going crazy about it. And I wish I could say who it was.
I know the tweet.
Text me that.
I know the tweet.
That, you saw it, huh?
I know which one you're talking about.
That the Jets have basically taken apart a top 5 defense. And then you look back historically at what this Jets defense looks like, and depending on the metric, you can have a whole argument whether or not they were ever a top 5 defense. But that being said, I think the point was this was a really talented team, and nobody ever overlooked underestimated a Jets defense. They just have been really bad this year. And I don't know what the reason is, but I know even just heading into the season, even before Aaron Glenn was hired, there were a lot of people that were looking at that job outside of having to work for that owner of they're a pretty good team. Outside of the quarterback, they've got guys. But that's obviously it's not the case entirely. So they keep Breece Hall, another player that
Jermaine Johnson.
They keep Jermaine Johnson. Breece Hall wanted out. They took some calls on him. That one was interesting. Over the weekend, I thought he'd get moved. I really did, because they haven't signed him to an extension, right? Why not just trade him, get some picks back? He doesn't want to be there. Just, it would make sense, but they decided to hold on because I don't believe they want it to be a full teardown,
Okay.
They gotta have some players.
They gotta have some players. You gotta feel the team out there. Coming up on Scoop City on this unbelievable Wednesday following the trade deadline, we're going to talk about what was Diana's favorite trade that went down on Tuesday. What was it? We're going to talk about it next on Scoop City. So welcome back to Scoop City on a Wednesday. James Palmer, Dianna Russini with you. And this trade we are about to break down was Diana's favorite trade of Tuesday. And again, 10 trades went down on the final day of the trade deadline. I won't introduce the trade, Dianna. I will let you take it away. What trade do you now look at and go, yep, that's my favorite of the day?
I like the ones that I didn't see coming. And on Tuesday morning was the first time I heard that Seattle was really in on a wide receiver. I knew they were looking at offensive line, but they were not one of the teams that I saw circling around the receiver space. We know that Buffalo was doing that a bit. I think Denver was poking around, not too aggressively, but they definitely made some calls. The Pittsburgh Steelers were in on wide receiver. And then, boom, the Seattle Seahawks wind up swooping in, despite the fact that the New Orleans Saints were getting lots of phone calls on Rashid Shaheed. And they're able to land and give Sam Darnold yet another weapon after the quarterback is having, without a doubt, his best season. And I think this was one of those moves in the moment. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see them just trying to bolster. And then when you start really digging deep in this and you start thinking about what Kubiak can do with a player that he's familiar with, he knows there's, I don't expect some difficult, tough transition for the receiver, even though Chase will tell you the hardest position is a receiver going from one team to another because there's so much difference in language and change. And but I'll let Chase talk about that another time. But so to me, this was my favorite one. And this, I've always been frightened by Seattle in a good way. I just think this is one of those that just gives them another added weapon that can help them make a long, deep run here.
Yeah, I got a text from a defensive coordinator after this trade and goes, they are going to be absolutely terrifying. And I think he's right. and I think this might be one of my favorite trades as well, because what ended up happening, and you love that you mentioned what Chase brought up and shifting at the wide receiver spot. You make these trades, Diana, you give up capital. You give up picks that are very valuable if you're around that third, fourth round. I know they wanted a third rounder for him. They got a fourth and a fifth from Seattle. You want these players to come in and make an impact right away. And that he has familiarity and a ton of success in the first 2 weeks in New Orleans when Clint Kubiak was rolling before all the injuries happened as their offensive coordinator. He gets reunited with him, and they should be off and running. I think the same thing in Philadelphia with Jalen Phillips, who has already played for Vic Fangio. He should be off and running. I think there's value in those connections. But now you not only make your entire offense better, make Sam Darnold better. He's a deep threat to take the top off the defense. You make the best receiver in football even better in Jackson Smith and Jigba, and maybe creating more space for him to go out there and operate. I think this is outstanding. I think the only negative that comes from this trade is this offense might become too good and you lose Clint Kubiak after the season. And people come and get him for a head coaching job. Who knows?
Become like the Eagles and everyone's fighting over the ball.
100%. Yeah. I mean, what a great move. What a great move. We loved it. It was outstanding. But there were some moves that did not happen, Diana, in the league. Everybody was curious. Everybody's blowing you up going, I thought Brandon Beane was going to be aggressive. I saw Mike Tomlin on Tuesday. He was saying, I love to shop. And nothing happens with some of these teams. Obviously, there's also some big names that we were keeping an eye on, whether it's Trey Hendrickson or Jaylen Waddle or Jermaine Johnson you mentioned earlier in the show. Let's start with Trey Hendrickson, because that was kind of the one that even weeks ago, the 49ers are curious about and seeing if he's going to become available. You mentioned on Monday on our show, and this was accurate, that the price was going to go down a little bit from what they were asking. And then we were curious if that was going to make a move, and still nothing.
It didn't. And I know that there were a lot of people curious about it. I was receiving a lot of text messages, even from some people with the Bengals. What are they going to do with him? And I think most assumed that Trey would get moved. And he stayed pat. In fact, I feel like it kind of died down, considering how much we were talking about this.
Interesting.
I think because of the Bengals price, on Monday afternoon, they were still on a first rounder. They dropped it down to a second rounder for a separate team that I spoke to that was in on him. And I just don't think that was a price teams wanted to pay, with Trey dealing with a couple injuries here, his age. This would be an 8-game rental. There were a lot of different factors there. So he stays there. And it also makes me start thinking about the Bengals collectively, right? They have held on to this hope of the return of Joe Burrow. That is what this entire season has been about. And I just think it's
coming in on a horse, saving the day. Yeah.
I know. Do you see him dressed up for Halloween as the Joker, by the way?
He did his own makeup. Yep.
He did his own makeup. He was good. But I just think the fact that they're holding on to that is flawed, because you just don't know. Look at Brock Purdy, right? And they had the same injury, and I understand Joe had surgery on the turf toe. It's different than what Brock is doing. But how many times have I said on the show, Brock is expected to play this week. Brock is expected to play this week. And then the poor kid 100%. Goes out and practices, and he doesn't feel good, right? So it's like, I understand why the Bengals want him back, but that just may not be realistic depending on what happens come December. So with that said, I think the Bengals had an opportunity to move more players, and the price was just too high.
Yeah. That seems what it is. And remember, you were going to take, because there was no restructuring of this deal done before that deadline, that you were going to take on the $10 million, I think, roughly, that was left. You're also going to take on a $10 million cap hit. So that was all pretty much just there for you. And you also know, like you mentioned, it's a rental, second round pick. And the Bengals really showed us, Dianna, that they did not change their stripes. Zing. They just stayed exactly who they are, which is we never want to give away players that are going to make us worse as the season goes on. Logan Wilson was different. He essentially already lost his job, and they want some younger guys to play in that role, and they were already doing that. Trey Hendrickson, you do wave the white flag if you trade away Trey Hendrickson, a closer. And since Joe Flacco has been there, I will say this. They are the best offense in football. It's not a lie, since Joe Flacco has become their quarterback. So they feel like they have hope. I don't know if it's accurate. I don't know if it was the right move, but that's the way Cincinnati thought about it. The other player that we kept hearing, Dianna, that had a very high price, Jaylen Waddle. I think this was like a pipe dream for a lot of people. I think actually on Monday's show, you mentioned that you would like, man, would I love Buffalo to get Jaylen. Wasn't that what you said? I would love Buffalo.
That was my dream. That was my wish list. No one listens to me in Buffalo, though. I tried.
Oh, they should. They should.
Look, a lot of teams are very hesitant to trading in division, right? Obviously, the Bills would have to do business with the Dolphins. I saw that multiple times, actually. The AFC East, I found more complicated than other divisions from the teams I was talking to you about trading within. Caddy. So, little cat. I'm okay with Caddy. Bring the petty on. I'm all for
Let's
it.
Let's go.
But
we love petty on the show. We talk about it all the time.
Now, I will say, though, if that's your opportunities, like I also think it's really stupid. But whatever, we'll put that aside for now, because, you look around, even just the AFC East, to just stay in that division. I'd put New England up there as a team. I was shocked they didn't do anything. And when I say shocked, I mean it because look how good they are right now. How they're better than I expected. Yes. They're winning. They just need a couple guys on defense, right? Like, I'm surprised they weren't able to pull off something. I know they took some swings. They weren't able to get any deals done, but this is an organization that I think is looking at the picks, right? They want to keep them as they're going to continue to build off what it is that they're building now, right? Which seems to be headed in a good direction. Whereas, Miami is sitting there Like, what are they? You know, I was told they were listening on everyone, but they weren't giving it away. They didn't want it to be just one big fire sale where everyone was cheap. Whereas I thought maybe they lean into that. I thought there was a shot because Bradley Chubb didn't get moved either. I expected him to be shipped off. So yeah. So there were definitely a lot of teams calling Miami. They weren't doing that much business.
Yeah, no, they weren't. I think obviously it was a dream scenario. And why was it a dream scenario for, like you mentioned, it was your wish list move for the Bills. And maybe people in Denver are going, man, if we have Jaylen Waddle, and people in Pittsburgh going, if we had Jaylen Waddle as the complement to DK Metcalf. The reason everybody's saying this is he's a really good football player. Like, that's why everybody's saying that. But guess what? Miami knows he's a really good football player too. And they have him really, in terms of his contract, Dianna, in a very favorable contract for them into 2026 for sure too. They know that. That's why other teams were, he was appealing to them as well. I wouldn't be surprised though if this was somebody that was called upon this offseason by maybe those same teams going, is he available now? Just to check in and see. I don't know. We'll see what ends up happening with Jaylen Waddle moving forward, but that was definitely a name that was getting bounced around here. You mentioned Jermaine Johnson. That price seemed to stay high. Was that because they didn't want to move Jermaine Johnson? What was the situation there? Because you did hear a couple things I remember you telling me.
Yeah, Philly was poking around on that. I mentioned San Francisco before, the Chicago Bears. This was before the Jalen Phillips trade. The Patriots, I believe, made a call as well. So there was interest there. And I kept getting told by New York that they weren't going to move him. Like, we're not doing it. And then something changed a bit where it felt, again, this was kind of the Jets' way. They were putting out all the signals of, we're not doing it. You guys can call us on all these guys. We're not selling anyone. Well, what we're doing is we're not selling anyone for cheap. And I just don't think the Chicago Bears were willing. They were the most serious, like so serious that I thought it was going to happen. I had some of my drafts and my Twitter ready to go.
Do you delete those now? Are those drafts? You got to get rid of them, right? You don't want them. You leave them in there.
Great question. And I recently experienced it. I let Joey watch YouTube on my phone, and he likes to touch the screen. And before I knew it, he was on Twitter. And all I kept thinking was, what if he had hit the drafts and it was like, Tom Brady isn't retiring. He's staying with, you know what I mean? Like some draft from 2019. Yes. I need to go back in. You know what would be a fun segment? We should open up our drafts and
go to the draft and see what's in there.
That were going to happen. Let's just do this live real quick. Let me see if there's one good one in here that I can find. That would be great. Now, look, I'm going to
go way back just to see. Okay, keep going.
I have drafts in here, by the way, for things that I'm expecting to happen because I have intel and things change. So I want to be careful not to read those because people probably don't want that out. So I'm gonna try to pick something that wouldn't. Oh boy, I have some get ready ones too. I'm like firing people that are still employed. Yeah. Oh boy, I really got to scroll down here. I got this one. I got the Chiefs and Trey Smith were unable to come to terms on a long-term deal before Tuesday's deadline.
That didn't happen.
They were listed. They were able to do it. They were listed. Yeah, I got more in preparation right now, live in here, which is just as gnarly, I'd argue. Right?
I got an old one. I got an old one sending Cooper Kupp somewhere, and I'll text it to you. What that was. Wow. Yeah, that's a good way to go about it. Oh yeah.
Wait, was it Cooper Kupp in season before the trade deadline last year?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I said yeah like that. I think I know what it is. Sorry, we're so annoying for the viewers and listeners. I think I know what it is.
Yeah. Apologies. We'll wrap this up.
You tell me if I got it right.
Okay, yeah. You can text me. I'll after the break, I will tell everybody if Dianna texted me the correct team.
Just look now. Just look now.
Okay, I'll look now. You're correct. Okay, moving on to the last part of Scoop City. We got Jacob Robinson from the Scoop City newsletter. See, I crushed it. He's going to be here asking Diana and I a question. We're going to answer that coming up next. Hope it's not Tom Brady cloning his dog. All right, welcome back to a packed Wednesday Scoop City edition. James Palmer, Dianna Russini with you, and we love our Wednesday questions. This one coming from Jacob Robinson, the Scoop City newsletter. I'm not entirely sure what this is, but I do have a pretty good idea. Jacob, take it away.
Dianna and James, hope you're doing okay after a busy trade deadline day. You know, I was looking through the newsletter and I found that the number of trades for star players and first round picks has been increasing substantially over the years. And I wanted to turn it to you. Has it felt like trade deadline day has gotten a lot busier? Is your phone going crazier yesterday than it typically has been? Are you getting more calls, text messages? What does trade deadline day look like for a Dianna Russini and James Palmer? I think two of the most plugged in people that I know. I want to hear from you guys.
Jacob, I'm blushing. Very nice compliment at the end, Dianna, right? Especially from him. I mean, wow, like it. You go first. You are the insider. You are the lifeblood of the news here at the Athletic.
By the way, I love this block. It's called the compliment block. And we just do nothing but kindness to each other.
You guys are great parents. What we need you guys to tell us is, and I'm like, oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I feel like I'm failing. My wife called me today and was like, our son hates me. I'm like, oh, great, cool. What
an asshole I am. I'm laughing at that.
She was like, this is the last thing I have to deal with today. Okay, what has it been like? Because you have two boys. You got Kev. You got a lot going on in the life. How are you balancing all this? What was the phone like compared to years past? Like Jacob asked. The days leading.
It was very busy. It was very busy, but it was more the lead up to me that was the hard part, because every week was changing depending on how the teams finished that Sunday, usually on whether or not they were going to be aggressive or not. I had teams that I expected to be buyers that backed off because they weren't winning that much. And teams that, and you kind of touched on it before, teams with decision makers and staff members that are kind of Cowboys, weren't doing a lot of that. I had someone close to the Eagles tell me how he was antsy, despite the fact that he did make some moves, that he was bored yesterday afternoon watching all of it. So look, I think it's more just a collection of it. I like now that it's over though, because it does kind of chill the news cycle out a bit. Now we can just really lock in on what these teams look like, and we can just get excited and ready for the playoffs, because I'm ready for that.
Yeah, we're straight football now. Here we go. I think with the deadline getting pushed back a little bit, that makes it a little bit more hot, right? I think that plays a part. I think you mentioned it. Like, we're always curious, Dianna. Like, we're trying to figure out what type of general manager is Darren Muji at the trade deadline. What is James Gladstone down in Jacksonville like at the deadline? We've had a lot of shuffling the last couple of years at the general manager spot. So we're trying to figure out, what is the mindset with some of these guys? Do you come from a Les Snead world like James does and go, whoa, should we be paying attention? Dianna, this guy comes from an F them picks type of mentality. What's his mention? What's he going to be like at the deadline? So I do think with the change that happens at that spot in the executive branch, I was going to say the executive branch of football organization. Nobody says that.
So serious. I think you make a good point. And let's look at those GMs. They made moves, right? Like they told us what they want to be. And I can imagine when you're a first time GM, you probably feel like you have to, right? It's like anytime you do a job for the first time, you want to prove and show. So I'm actually not surprised. And I had heard that Jacksonville, and I think we even talked about it on Monday, that they were like, let's go, let's do something. And they were able to land Jacoby Myers, which, they were not a name that I was considering as somebody that was going to be high on the list with Las Vegas in landing him, so. Yeah. But otherwise, imagine if they moved. I had a GM say this to me the other day. Imagine if they just moved the deadline another 2 weeks. Like, just keep pushing it down.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised. This league would do something for more action, right? Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they do it? Oh, whew. I will say this as my closing comment for this show, Dianna. I know there's a lot of people out there that go, why didn't my general manager make a move? What are we doing? I'm going to tell you this. It was not due to a lack of effort. It was not due to a lack of phone calls and aggression. Oftentimes, well, let's say 100% of the times, it takes two teams to make a trade. You can't make a trade happen if the other side doesn't agree. And every general manager usually has an exact amount of compensation they're willing to go to and will not go above that. They have drawn a proverbial line in the sand. So I don't want you to be the fan out there that goes, I can't believe we didn't make a move. And then the next year your team makes a move and goes, I can't believe we gave away so much. You can't have it both ways when you talk about the trade deadline. This was awesome. This was great. You got a closing scoop for us? Something that maybe hasn't been talked about?
I was actually
something that
I was thinking about if anyone told me a big lie, right? Because there's also a little bit of
it's lying season for sure.
Yeah, I was trying to reflect on, did anyone give me such bad intel that it was like laughable and I wasted time? I don't think it was so much this season. I had one a few years ago. I was like, I wasted 2 hours and it was like, what was that? That was stupid. I will say I thought the more active general manager in football, Nick Caserio, would have been jumping in more. He did not.
That's a really good point.
What's going on there?
Offensive line's tough. I thought maybe running back they'd be in the market for.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, with what's going on in that backfield.
You know, they tried. But again, like to your point, but I thought he'd be able to get. He's the best, from what I understand, for talking to teams that deal with him. He's really quick at going, can you do this? Can you not? He's kind of like right to the point. If not, all right, what can we do to make it work? All right, let's do it. Pull the Band-Aid, let's go, and moves on to the next. So just not the time for him. We'll see what happens in the offseason when we know that they probably going to need to make some improvements there, especially on that offensive line that you bring up. So either way, that was awesome.
I'm glad I asked that question. We got a little insight on the Texans and Nick Caserio right here at the end. For Dianna Russini, Jacob Robinson, James Palmer here. We'll see you on Thursday for another Scoop City. This was outstanding.
Thanks for watching Scoop City. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and feel free to leave a comment. New episodes of Scoop City drop every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday.